Right then, welcome back to the channel. Now, I'm going to talk to you today about Scott McTominay, but Scott McTominay's potential move to Fulham is not this video. This video is a little bit more around the Scott McTominay player, position, and situation. So let's look at what's going on with McTominay specifically first. Now, Damesh Seth is saying that reports are that Fulham are expected to make an improved offer for him after a £17 million bid was rejected. Now, Erik Ten Hag's had his say, and he said, if you score 10 goals in a season and perform very well for Scotland, there will be interest. He's got a point, right? And then he said, when we had the sixes and he could play in a lot more of an advanced role, he's a highly interesting player for our team. We actually want to keep him because he's a very important player for us. We've seen what he can contribute last season. Now, on one hand, everything he said is accurate. On the other hand, I think he would probably like to move him on and improve that position. I think there's a little bit of playing the game and making sure we don't get rinsed on the price. Now, for me, it's evident that United are desperately in need of a midfielder or two, but budget restrictions alongside the market being a little bit thin for the perfect partner to cover for Mainu's, just to play alongside Manu, actually, because he's an offensive midfielder rather than a defensive midfielder. And that means selling people. And it means selling people wisely to reinvest, and that could be vital. And obviously, it's going to depend on who that is. Not to mention that there's this pure profit thing because he's an academy player if he was to be sold. Now, McTominay is a limited midfielder. He's literally almost a second striker with the goal-scoring instincts that he's kind of developed. And is there value in that? I actually think if you was throwing like a Xerxes on into those positions later on in games, you'd get far more productivity out of him than you got out of McTominay. It's like when people go, this fullback's really good in the final third, he should be a winger. But he's arriving as the second player into a zone where someone's marked. So you're going to end up with more space. If you switch those roles around, the winger would look like he had so much more time and space on the ball because the other guy would be marked. And it's the same like, people saying, well, let's just play McTominay up front. Well, you play McTominay up front, he sees none of the ball. He was getting on the end of stuff because he was the second person arriving into the zone, not the first person arriving into the zone who was getting held up a little bit. So for me, yes, there's a bit of a plan B in there. Yes, he's a homegrown player. There's probably more reason for him to stick around than, say, a Casemiro. But I think you have to look at the alternatives. I think you have to look at the possible replacements. Now, Fofana has been touted in the last few days. Seems like he's Milan bound. This feels a little bit like old United, where someone would throw United's name into the air and see if it lands, where there's probably not really too much realism about United getting him. He is a player that brings in a little bit of physicality, which is nice. Possibly a really good mesh with Manu. But again, feel like he's Milan bound. Zubimendi, the best player that we've been linked with in this position, isn't quite good enough off the ball, I don't think, to be the destroyer in this team, which is going to be a very demanding position because you're almost going to be a single pivot. Question marks on whether he would come. €60 million release fee seems like a bit of a madness. Ugarte, for me, the best fit, absolute data machine in terms of the volume that he puts up on the defensive side of the game. I thought we were talking about 20, 25, 30 million for him. And now I've seen that it's €70 million that we've been quoted for him. That's not the price. I like Ugarte. That price is insane. That price is absolutely insane. He's probably more of a front foot pressing 8 than he is like, an out and out number 6, but I think he would play in the number 6 and be fine with it. Not as polished on the ball as Zubimendi, isn't as progressive as Fofana, but suits what we need as a team probably just a little bit more than the rest of them. Now, when you look at what that represents then for Scott McTominay coming or going and what you can get for him, now, Fulham aren't going to double their price. They're not going to come back with 34 million. Would they come back with 25? And I think when you go back and you look at what this player is, someone with a lot of Premier League experience, international football, performed and delivered in some of the biggest games, 17 million is an absolute disgrace for Scott McTominay. Like, that is one that you go, I'll just fucking keep him. He's not on mad wages. and he does come on and do a job, and you can rely on him to be a bit of a physical presence and a nightmare to cut about the place. So, I'm going to ask you lot, if it's 17 million, okay, it's not 17 million because that's been rejected, but what are they going to come back with? 20, what, 20, 24? Like, I don't know where the valuation goes from here. It needs to go north, obviously. But are you going to see this hit 25 or beyond? Could you buy a replacement for Scott McTominay for 25 million? And if you can't, then you have to look at, is this the right deal for Manchester United? Ultimately, like, we're going to find out, aren't we? Anyway, let me know your thoughts on, one, McTominay stay or go, and then second or fourth, the possible replacements that we're looking at. Which of those three do you think we can get? Which of those three do you think we will get? And either way, take it easy. But I'm literally about to go get on the plane, well, the train and then the plane, as we head out to America to go and follow United. So take it easy. See you in a bit.